A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad that you're with us today. After what was yet another violent weekend filled with unrest from coast to coast, you had massive protests and some sporadic violence in our nation's capital. You had a shooting in Portland, Oregon, where supporters of President Trump drove into town on Saturday night. There were scuffles on the streets, and then there were shots fired, and one individual dropped dead. Now, we don't have any official suspects as of the time that I'm recording this, although police sources have been talking to the press there in the state of Oregon, and they have said that there is a person that they are investigating. As it turns out, an individual known to law enforcement facing, was arrested in July for illegally carrying a gun at one of these protests in Portland. Those charges apparently dropped by prosecutors about a month ago. Still don't know why. Back in June, this individual caught in Eastern Oregon after racing his 17-year-old son, apparently down an interstate. When he was pulled over, he was charged with DUI, charged with, again, possession of a unlicensed firearm, as well as some drug charges as well. This individual's 11-year-old daughter apparently in the car at the same time. So innocent until proven guilty. Again, this individual not even named a formal suspect yet, but apparently is the subject of an investigation, identified by family members as being on the scene of that shooting and then leaving pretty much right after those shots were fired. Somebody known to law enforcement there in Portland, known to law enforcement across the state, and not exactly somebody you'd call a Boy Scout. We will continue to keep our eyes on any new developments out of Portland, Oregon, as well as Kenosha, Wisconsin, where President Donald Trump is expected to speak this week after finally getting Tony Evers, the governor of Wisconsin, to agree to putting more National Guardsmen on the streets. Things have been fairly quiet in Kenosha as a result, and President Trump wants to go to Kenosha to say, look, this is how you stop this type of violence. Interestingly enough, by the way, authorities in Kenosha have said that of the more than 100 people arrested over the course of the past week, they have come from 44 different cities. So we are seeing this phenomenon, I think, on both the left and the right, or those who are opposed to the police, those who are coming out to support the police. These cities are becoming these flashpoints, and they're bringing people in. We're not seeing necessarily, millions of people across the country all of a sudden stand up and say, oh, I'm going to go break down the windows in my neighborhood. That's not what's happening. You've got a fairly small group of people who seem to be operating with some degree of coordination and certainly a shared ideology that when there's an incident like the shooting of Jacob Blake, when those protests first erupt, they grab their keys, they hop in their car, and man, they take off. And they want to go to ground zero. They want to be there not to bring peace, but again, to stir up some chaos. And unfortunately, again, this is playing out in cities across the country, and it has for months and months as the nation has become more and more divided. So I was thinking about this weekend because I do believe that the Second Amendment and the Second Amendment movement in this country, and I've said it here on this program many times before, it's, I think, the biggest tent that we have in American politics. Because you have people across the political spectrum who are Second Amendment supporters. There are people who I disagree with on virtually every issue under the sun, except our right to keep and bear arms. And in years past, we've often been able to put those political differences aside. We've been able to find some sort of comity in the Second Amendment community. And I worry that those days are soon to be over. So I wanted to bring in to talk about this a guy who has done, I think, an incredible amount over the last few years to actually bring this big tent together and to make it even bigger. Tony Simon is the founder of the Diversity Shoot in New Jersey, which is a fantastic event put on a regular basis. I'm going to let Tony tell you all about it, but I sat down with Tony to talk not only about how the coronavirus has impacted the diversity shoot, but what he thinks about the idea that in this day and age of deepening political divides, that maybe the Second Amendment's big tent is collapsing. Take a look and a listen. Tony, thanks so much for coming to the program, my friend. It is good to talk to you today.
Hey, glad to be on. Really appreciate it. Haven't seen you much because of COVID, so usually we run into each other 2 or 3 times a year.
I know, right? But I think the last time I basically went to, I made it to SHOT Show this year. CPAC, I guess, was my last big event. Then everything got shut down. I'll be attending the Gun Rights Policy Conference virtually here in the next few days, and hopefully, got my fingers crossed that maybe 2021 SHOT Show is going to go off. I talked with Larry Keane of the NSSF last week, and they say as long as Las Vegas doesn't shut down conventions, they are planning on an in-person SHOT Show. So hopefully we'll get to see each other before then. But, listen, I mean, you're up there in New Jersey. You put on this incredible event on a regular basis called Diversity Shoot. First of all, before we even get into how, this has been affected by the coronavirus closures, what is the Diversity Shoot all about?
Well, the Diversity Shoot is really something we put together in 2015 to get all people, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, background, anything, to come into a range, meet Second Amendment advocates, meet real gun people, and kind of dispel that negative media narrative of what the gun owner is. We just want to introduce people to firearms in a way that they feel inclusive. Let them know this is their right. This is how to fight for their right by introducing them to advocacy groups. Tell them about laws coming down the pipe. And if you're a gun person, cool. If you're not a gun person, we'll introduce you to it. If you get there and go, you know what, I don't even want to go shoot, that's fine with us too. And if you have questions, we are not going to attack you. We're actually going to answer questions. So the whole thing is just a setup to be the anti-moms. Anti-moms demand.
That's awesome.
We're welcoming and we answer questions.
So I mean, obviously, the gun stores, basically, there was a lawsuit that had to be filed before Governor Phil Murphy finally agreed to reopen gun stores. But ranges were still shut down in New Jersey for months and even now operating in limited capacity. So how have the anti-gun laws and the coronavirus closures impacted your ability to put these shoots on over the last few months?
Well, we started out at Gun for Hire range in Woodland Park, New Jersey. Anthony Calandro is a wonderful host, and he's one of the reasons we still have one. But being in New Jersey, he can't host events and keep his place open because our attendees will take his place past 25% capacity limitation Governor has on indoor ranges in New Jersey. Luckily, the Heritage Go is located in Easton, PA, which is right across the border from Phillipsburg, New Jersey. They allowed us to have our first diversity shoot last week. It was great. People came out. Sig Sawyer sent a rep down to the store, and we had a great time. We had people out of all races, all backgrounds. We had Hold My Gun, an organization, come out and talk about what they do in suicide prevention. And it was really a great organization, but I had to book the rest of the year in Pennsylvania because we don't know when Governor Phil Murphy will allow us to have full capacity indoor ranges in New Jersey.
I mean, on the one hand, I think it's kind of cool that you're able to expand outside of New Jersey. I just wish it were for different reasons. But it's fantastic that the attendance was so good. I mean, look, we are seeing record numbers of gun sales in New Jersey itself. I think I reported a couple weeks ago, they're looking at like a backlog of, or they had 60,000 people apply for their firearm ID cards between, I think it was January and maybe July of this year, which, record-setting numbers in New Jersey. So clearly the demand is there. The supply, perhaps not so much. But what was it like? I mean, as you say, this was an opportunity for people of all races, all colors, creeds, backgrounds to get together and embrace and enjoy a day at the range. At a time, Tony, in which this country seems to be, being ripped apart at the seams, was there any tension between, conservative gun owners, non-conservative gun owners? How did it work in practice, this last diversity shoot?
Truthfully, the only questioning thing happened is, do you have to keep a face mask on or not? That was the only question we had. People got along fine. We had a lot of my guys from New Jersey, volunteers, men and women, came out to help. We had people from Pennsylvania come out. We even had a couple of ladies from Brooklyn, New York, that drove out to be a part of this. Yeah, so there was no friction in any way whatsoever. We had a great time. We had food. We had prizes. It's just fun. Matter of fact, I'm trying to make up for lost time. I usually have it every other month. Well, now it's every month. One diversity shoot a month is going to be held at the Heritage Guild in Eastern PA.
When is the next one going to take place, Tony? Do you know?
Yep, the next one is going to be September 17th, 6 p.m. I'll have the ticket information up on my website, diversityshoot.com, by the end of the day.
All right, September, you said 17th?
Thursday, September 17th. It's already on our Facebook page. The second is for everyone. And I'll have it on the diversityshoot.com .com website this afternoon.
All right. I don't know if I can make it up to Easton, PA on a weekday, but I would love to try so I could get to see you in person and get to check this out. How concerned are you generally, though, about, you and I are talking about this a little bit off air. I've always believed that the Second Amendment has been one of the biggest tent movements in politics, particularly in recent years. And I am not, the idea that we have, Democrat gun owners, far left gun owners, socialist gun owners, well aware of that. And in years past, it seems like we've always sort of been able to maybe put our other politics aside and at least work towards that common goal of making sure that our Second Amendment rights are safe and secure. Are you concerned about this big tent maybe collapsing a little bit because of the unrest that we're seeing play out in our streets, the violence, the calls for police reform, the calls to back the blue? Is this having an impact on the Second Amendment community?
It could if we allow it to. The divisiveness that we're seeing is being engineered. It's not happening organically. So at the diversity shoot, we only talk about the Second Amendment. We talk about the things we have in common. The divisiveness, I won't enter into it. Other people see that's the spirit of what we're doing, and they won't allow it either. That's the bad part about what we see in social media. Everyone's allowed to run amok with their opinions, and it's not leading to anything positive. And our whole thing with diversity shoot is to be positive. We have all of this in common. We want peace in the streets. We want jobs. We want our kids to be able to go to school together and have healthy, loving relationships. Don't allow what people have engineered to separate us. Let's work together. That's all. And we can do it because we're Americans and we do awesome stuff.
Absolutely. What kind of impact do you think these new gun owners might have in New Jersey politics? I mean, I know New Jersey, believe it or not, has, a pretty healthy number of gun owners already. But it does seem like there's been this surge in interest in folks wanting to exercise their Second Amendment rights, now running sort of, headlong into New Jersey gun laws. Are you hopeful that some of these new gun owners or people who want to be gun owners will now start taking a greater interest in protecting their right to keep and bear arms politically?
Well, what we're trying to do is actually welcome those people into the fold. I don't hold out any more hope that they're going to be any more politically active than the other gun owners have, that if the 1 million gun owners we already have in the state that don't vote as a block. But I'm going to lay the carpet out for them because now they were desperate to get a firearm. They found out what New Jersey law is like, and maybe a few of them will want to do something about it. And that's where we come in with Diversity Shoot and other Second Amendment organizations in the state. It's our job to welcome these people and shepherd them in the right way. And it's not our job to change their mind politically, just make them aware of what their options are.
There you go. All right, Tony, give us the website one more time for folks who want to know more about Diversity Shoot and how they can attend.
Really simple, diversityshoot.com. We'll have the schedule up for the rest of the year this afternoon. And you can go to our Facebook page. The second is for everyone. Buy a ticket there.
All right. Tony Simon, as always, man, great talking with you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for our right to keep and bear arms in New Jersey and now in Pennsylvania as well. I guess we can throw in Brooklyn I mean, really, it's more than the tri-state area. You are a Second Amendment superhero in that area, and we do appreciate all your support. And I am going to do what I can to rearrange my schedule and get things worked out. If I need to RSVP for the 17th, I will do so. But I'm going to try to make it up there to Eastern PA for the diversity shoot.
Yeah, Eastern PA. No problem. We have one every month this year.
Awesome. All right, Tony. Thanks so much for your time today. Thank you for everything you do, and we'll talk again soon. I do appreciate Tony joining us on the program. I really am going to try to do what I can. I just remembered. I did tell Rick Ector that the next road trip I took was going to be to Detroit, and Easton, PA would technically be a road trip. All right, I've got some decisions to do. Maybe I can drive to Detroit. That's a little out of the way of Easton, PA, but I'll figure something out because I do want to get up to Detroit, and I do want to get to one of the diversity shoots before the end of the year. All right. Right now, though, I want to get to today's Armed Citizen story. I want to get to our Recidivist report. I want to get to our good deed of the day. We'll try to get the bad news out of the way first here with the Recidivist report story out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. You can see the headline from the Morning Call, who's pleading for his life. Registered sex offender charged in the shooting death of a fleeing boy in Harrisburg. This is, man, I got to tell you, this is a disturbing story. That played out over the weekend. A teenage boy shot and killed Saturday afternoon in Harrisburg was fleeing naked from a registered sex offender who's now facing criminal charges. Tracy Burton, one of the neighbors who watched this all unfold, she said he was pleading for his life. 45-year-old Orlando Duarte of Harrisburg now facing charges of criminal homicide as well as prohibited possession of a firearm. After the shooting, which took place about 1 p.m. Saturday afternoon, police said on Sunday they responded to the scene for a call of shots fired. When they got there, residents directed them towards the area where the suspect fled. There was a short chase. Police were able to take Duarte into custody. Investigators said witnesses told them that Duarte, who was armed with a handgun, was chasing a juvenile who police did not identify. They said that Duarte fired several shots at the boy, who was taken to a nearby hospital and then was pronounced dead a short time later. Duarte had a handgun on him when he was arrested. Tracy Burton was one of those who called 911. She said she was sitting on her porch when she saw the boy run naked and turn to cut between houses with Duarte close behind him. As she and other neighbors made their way towards the homes, they could hear the boy yelling, "Help me," which was soon followed by gunshots. He continued to yell help as the shots rang out. A Harrisburg television station identified the boy as 16-year-old Kyan King. A GoFundMe page has been set up to help King's family with the funeral expenses. Duarte, in the meantime, had been added to the state's sex offender registry in November of 2015 for involuntary deviant sexual intercourse. He's listed as a lifetime sex offender. He was sentenced. Now, here's the thing. Duarte, let's go back more than a decade now. 2008, Duarte, according to the Morning Call, sentenced to 6 to 23 months of confinement and probation after pleading no contest to charges of simple assault, recklessly endangering another person, indecent assault of a person less than 16, as well as disorderly conduct. So he's 45 now. He would have been, in his early 30s in 2008 when he was first facing those charges. He apparently didn't spend much time behind bars because by 2012, he was sentenced to 4 to 8 years in prison, as well as 10 years of probation on charges that included involuntary deviant sexual intercourse with a child, aggravated indecent assault of a child, aggravated indecent assault without consent, indecent assault of a person less than 13, unlawful contact with a minor, and corruption of minors. That was 2012. 4 to 8 year prison sentence. This was his second offense involving sexual abuse of a child. You would think, then, that the upper range of that sentence might be what Duarte would have served. But you would be wrong. I don't even think he served 4 years, because the media reports indicate that he was convicted in 2012 of all of these charges, and yet in 2015, he was added to the state's registry of sex offenders. That normally happens after you're released from prison. So it sounds like Mr. Duarte did less than the minimum time that he was sentenced to before he was put back onto the streets, now again facing the most serious charges of his life, including first-degree murder in Harrisburg, PA. On to our armed citizen story from Iowa, Palo, Iowa, although I have a feeling this might be pronounced Palo, Iowa. Just having grown up in the Midwest, sometimes we do like to pronounce our town names a little bit differently than you might think. Lynn County Sheriff's Office said multiple calls alerted them to a man breaking into a home there in the town of Palo, around 3 o'clock Monday morning. Deputies in the area, when they got another call from a home, officials there said the homeowner had broken into that residence, had threatened to harm the occupants, but the homeowner shot him. Deputies' medical personnel began CPR. The intruder was pronounced dead. Incident remains under investigation. Again, this happened just a few hours ago, so we don't have a lot of details, but hopefully we'll be able to bring you more information about that case and that self-defense shooting on tomorrow's Bearing Arms Cam and Company. Finally, today we've got today's good deed of the day, also from a place I know fairly well, Barling, Arkansas, not too far away from Fort Smith, where I actually started out my career in broadcasting. And a police officer in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Check out this headline. Barling officer helps child leaving school barefoot in rain, buys car seat for dad in exchange for a child safety restraint ticket. This comes from Channel 5 in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Officer Tyler Wagner is a patrol officer with the Barling Police Department. Channel 5 says he has a reputation for being generous and compassionate with the community that he serves. Daryl Spells, who's the police chief in Barling, would agree with that assessment. Said that Officer Wagner's actions reflect our department's priority to positively influencing the citizens that we serve through community policing. So Officer Wagner was directing traffic at the school, and he noticed a little girl and her two brothers that were starting to walk home, and he noticed that the little girl wasn't wearing shoes. One woman who was there to pick up her own child, Amber Pittman, said she overheard the officer ask the little girl why she was walking barefoot, and she told the officer that her shoes broke. So Amber Pittman said she heard the officer ask the kids to wait by him while he finished his traffic control assignment. Then he offered to drive them home. The little girl didn't have to walk home barefoot in the rain. Pittman said, I heard him ask her if she had more shoes at home. It really just made me smile. These guys deserve more respect than they get. They really are so helpful, and because of him, this little girl didn't have to walk all the way home barefoot in the rain. He wasn't helping for any kind of recognition. He didn't even know anybody was watching. She said, that's the sweetest part. Well, Channel 5 reached out to Officer Wagner, and he said it bothered him to see this little girl walking with wet socks and no shoes. He didn't know her circumstances. He said, I thought about the rocks and the glass, and unfortunately they used needles along the way, and how miserable of a walk that would be. He said, it broke my heart. I grew up with a mother that was an addict, and I didn't see my dad much between 12 and 18 years old. We were very poor. A lot of time, we had no food or even running water. Officer Wagner says he remembers going to school hungry, wearing dirty clothes because he had nothing else. And he said, we hear about these stories and we think, how sad. But for these kids, that's life as they know it. And they have no loving home to escape to. He said he knows it can be embarrassing for kids, but that they try to make the best of it. He said, when I see these kids, I know firsthand how they feel. I want to help them in every way possible. I want them to know that people really care and that life gets better. I had empathy for her. So he told the kids again, wait here. I'll give you a ride home. He said, I was worried that her broken shoes might be the only pair that she had. I plan to get new shoes for her and her brothers if they needed them. He asked her, how was your day? Do you like your teachers? He got him to open up a little bit. And he said that as he was getting ready to take them home, their mom showed up. He said they didn't know that she was coming. It was a little later when she got there, but the mother told them and me that she would always come to pick him up when it's raining. He told Channel 5 in Fort Smith, he said, it's not about giving tickets and putting people in jail. That's not why he joined the police force. He said it's about helping somebody make a positive change in their life and wanting the best outcome for that individual. Which gets to that second part of the story. Wagner said he once pulled a man over in a routine traffic stop, noticed that the little boy inside the car did not have a child seat. Officer Wagner gave the man a ticket, and a little bit later he said he thought about it, came up with an idea. He said he felt like the man seemed to be a good father and that if he had a car seat, he'd use it. So he went to Walmart, bought a new car seat, drove to the man's home, and said, hey, I'll make a deal. You give me back that ticket, I'll give you this car seat. Officer Wagner said, Barling PD, proactive department that takes pride in our community, keeping it safe. We have a reputation in the past as being mean or rough, but the truth is the department's full of men that care about the community. We are all willing to do whatever it takes to make our corner of the world a better place. So in the right time, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing for a little girl and her family. Officer Tyler Wagner with the Barling, Arkansas Police Department, we thank you, sir, for your very good deeds. That is about all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. Hope that you had a wonderful weekend, and we will be getting back to it. More of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation coming up on tomorrow's program. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media at YouTube. That way you never miss a program. Also, Bearing Arms Cam and Company, the podcast at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you download your great audio programs, you will find us there as well. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be free, and we'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company.